Hi everyone, welcome to Casual Watch Talk Sunday Social. Thank you all for joining us. My co-host today is Steve, long-time watch collector. Steve, thanks for joining me.
Thanks. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me back.
And we're hoping to get some more guests joining us as we go on, but as it's just the two of us, keep plenty of those questions coming in the comment section for us. Got a few subjects we're going to talk about tonight. So on the bar menu tonight is we're going to talk about the new Bamford G-Shock. We're going to talk about, is the right time for watch collectors now that there's a little dip in the market, or did they ever go? Hitler's watch is coming up for auction, and I've got a few thoughts about that one. And then if you listen to the podcast, I had a little bit of a rant about the Moon Swatch, but we've not talked about it on the live stream, and I don't know what you guys think about it. So let me, so then we'll pick which ones in a second. So let me just remove that. But before we get started, we are joined by Rikki from Scottish Watches. Hey.
How are you doing? How are things?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
You're lucky I managed to make it with like 1 minute behind. Makes me just get back home.
Oh, really, really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, no worries at all, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, well, should we do a quick wristwatch check then? Let's get started.
Okay.
Rikki, do you want to go? Do you want to go first?
I'll go last since I'm just here.
Steve, you go for it.
All right. So this is what I'm wearing today, and it's a Wittenauer Professional vintage Valjoux 72 chronograph. So I got this. I picked this up a couple of years ago, and I don't wear it all the time, but yeah, I just love to look at it. And the Valjoux 72 is such a cool chronograph movement, so I figure why not wear that for today.
And is that another? Where's the brand from? I mean, is it long? Is it
Wittenauer? Yeah, they long gone, but yeah, they made some really. I think they were part of Longines, and yeah, they made kind of mid tier, everyday watches and sport watches and dress watches as well. And so yeah, I think unfortunately it's just one of those brands that went under during the quartz crisis, and I think there have been other attempts to try and revive them, but I like the vintage stuff, so that's the stuff that I'm drawn to.
Awesome. Well, I'll go next then. I'm still sort of honeymoonish period with my Rolex Datejust 41, the green one. I put it on this rubber B strap, which is also green. I think it's made for it was originally made for the Wimbledon dial version because it's been out for a while, but it looks awesome on this.
It does.
On this Datejust, so I'm going all in with the green there.
I love it.
Yeah, I might even try it on a NATO as well, but I don't know if that is that's sacrilegious putting a date just on a NATO. But let me know in the
your watch. You should do whatever you want to do.
Definitely.
Yeah, Rikki, what are you wearing?
Well, since it's new Rolex time, I'm wearing my new Rolex Daytona Cosmograph on Oyster Flex. Got this about 3 weeks ago, just before I went to Switzerland, and yeah, it's really nice. That's pretty much all I've got to say about it.
Yeah, it's really cool, that watch,
awesome,
isn't it? It's extremely rare to get hold of it.
Although we had a chat offline last week saying that there's quite a few people that have been waiting for all kinds of Rolex watches, and it's as if the stranglehold has been released somewhat. The grip has lessened, and there's more watches trickling out of Geneva and Biel and all these other places. So yeah, it looks like it's good news for collectors. It's maybe not so good news for the grey market sellers.
Yeah, you're right. I waited about 4 months for this Datejust, which I don't think was too bad considering the dial was in that size, was brand new. But the guy, one of the sales guys in there told me that he had somebody coming in later on to pick up the left-hand drive GMT, and it wasn't the first one they had in either. And I know somebody on the Tea and Tickers podcast that's got the left-hand drive GMT as well. So
right,
I think you might be right there that they're coming through.
Well, there's been a couple. There's yourself. You do not get mentioned by name on tomorrow's show, but there is a few people that don't get mentioned by name because we don't know if people want it to be known. I'm certainly not letting on which dealership that I had my name down with got me this, because they asked that they don't want that because somebody somewhere will have their nose put out of joint saying, oh, he only waited 3 years. I've been waiting 3.5. What happened there? What happened here? So it's still tricky, but I can count at least 4 people that I speak to on a semi-regular basis that in the last month have had the call from Rolex, and that is a lot more than it has been for the past maybe 2 years, I can think.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right there. Okay, well let's get started. I'll pass up the subjects, and guys, let me know in the comment section which one you want us to start with. I'll give you like 10 seconds. We're going to talk about the new Bamford is now the right time for watch collectors. Hitler's watch, which I've got a few things to say about, and then the Moon Swatch. Where should we go first? Let us know. First person to comment, or I'm going to pick one. Right, I'm going to pick one. I think we should go with the new. We'll go from top down. I'll go with the new Bamford. So quick intro here. Bamford are collaborating again with G-Shock, but not again this time with Hodinkee. That was really poor English. But originally, if you remember, Bamford did a collab with Hodinkee that completely sold out. And then now they've got the new one. This is the 6900. It's going to be available in a store, and then it's going to be available online, and then it's going to be available worldwide sometime in August. Yeah, so 18th of July online, 20th global release shortly thereafter. They're saying it's limited edition, but Hodinkee haven't found out the exact number, but I'm sure it's going to sell out quick. But I'll pass it to my co-hosts. What do you guys think? Rikki, what do you think here? Is this something you might try and get?
Absolutely not. No. I've got enough of these 6900 series G-Shocks. My first ever G-Shock was one of these. It was the Red Out 35th anniversary limited edition, and I managed to find it sitting in an airport when I was coming back from Amsterdam. So it was bleary-eyed. I was wondering if I was seeing properly, but I was seeing properly, and I did pick that watch up. This one here, nice colour scheme, but I think the point of a limited edition from a brand or a special edition is to make you feel special. It's to give you the warm and fuzzies. And Bamford is brilliant at what he does. He always has been. But every month, there's something new. There's another limited edition. And we're finding fatigue with the people that listen to our show and get in touch. The same as has happened with Grand Seiko, because they've got 24 seasons they celebrate in Japan. Grand Seiko have got a new release. A new release, a new release. And what happens is somebody looks at it and goes, I really like that. Oh, but they might do another one next month that I like better. Then they wait. And this is just a similar kind of situation. I mean, it's the last one we had him was maybe 2 months ago, and it was with Bremont, and then he did something with somebody else. He keeps doing Peanuts releases. They did one that looked like Jack Forster, and that's only within the last 2 to 3 months. So I just think there's too much of it, and he doesn't need to, because he's doing well. If he slows down and makes them more limited, better, more than just a colour change as we can see here. As much as it is a stunning watch, I just think it's a little bit too much.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think that I like the colorway, but for the price, I think it's going to be about $170 US.
What is the uplift versus the normal one?
Well, I think this one's the this one's the basic one, isn't it? It doesn't have the solar. They also do a multi-band 6 one. I think there's even maybe a Bluetooth version of this as well, but this is the basic one, and I think you can get them for like $60 or something, $60, $70 for this standard one. I also don't like the fact it's a negative display. I think what was really cool about their first one is they made this kind of matrix style green display. So it was a negative display, but it glowed green, and they had it slightly distressed. So it looked a bit like the Matrix. And this one did have the, it had the multi-band 6 and things like that one. I wonder if it actually says the price of this one. But this one, I mean, I even emailed, that was 149.
Ooh.
So that one did have the multi-band 6 on it. I even emailed Bremont because they sold out instantaneously, that first one. And I emailed them and they said, well, there's going to be some in store. But I mean, they still show it on the website, but sold out, that original one. So I'm sure they'll do the same with this one. But Steve, what did you think is...
Yeah, I think I kind of share the same sentiment as both of you, that I feel kind of indifferent towards it. I mean, it looks nice, but yeah, there's nothing, I think, Rikki, you mentioned that for a special edition, you want something special, right? For a limited edition, you want something special. And to me, there's just not enough. There's not enough there to make me feel like I'm getting something really special on, especially on kind of a real basic model Casio as well. It's just, it seems like a splurge purchase and not much else, so it's fine. If you're really into getting these sort of hype pieces and having the newest watch faster than anyone else, yeah, go for it. But it's something I think most people would probably be looking at the next new thing in a week or a month.
Yeah.
It's not special enough. It is literally just a color change.
Right.
And the logo slapped on it. And again, no offense to George, I do know him. He's been on our show before. But it's not special. It's a color change. And G-Shock, Casio, they do multiple iterations of this model, limited, special, general release, lots of different colorways, translucent, metallics, all kinds of stuff for around about the same price, if not cheaper. So I don't see where the tie-in is.
Yeah, agreed.
No, I agree, and I think as well it also shows. I don't know if it's, well, it was on one of the other on the Bamford site. They've gone all out on the packaging, so they've made the packaging quite fancy, but like you said, it doesn't really. The actual watch itself isn't that special. Well, let's go. I think just going on the comments as well, a lot of people are sharing the same sentiment. BDev says, like, who cares? So on, I think that's sharing a similar sentiment. Well, let's go on. We'll just go down in order here, but let's go on to the next one. And I was reading an article this week, and I can't find it. I'm sure it was on Watch Pro, but they were talking about, is now the right time for collectors to enter in the market again after all of this kind of speculative watch buying. But I don't know whether they've ever left, have they? I don't know whether, or is it the right time? Do you think people have been kind of saving up, waiting for the market to go down, or are people worried about economic?
Sam,
yeah,
raise your wristwatch hand.
Oh, yeah.
Have we been collecting things?
Yes.
We didn't go anywhere. We just got the call.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Steve, I know you're a big collector of vintage stuff. Are you picking up bargains? Have you been picking up bargains? Have you noticed anything?
Yeah, it does seem like prices have dropped, but it's been very subtle. And I think the place you're seeing it the most is with, the high demand Rolex pieces, right? I mean, it seems like Bloomberg has an article almost every other day just talking about how the Rolex market is dropping on new, highly coveted pieces. I have seen some prices drop. There are some other models I've noticed that the prices have gone down. So, for example, the Rolex 16570, which is the Explorer 2, the last generation before, well, I guess 2 generations ago, back when it was the smaller size case. The prices of those, I follow them because I own one, and so I'm always just looking at the prices just to see, are they going up, are they going down? And it does seem like the market softened a little bit, but I feel like, when there's a downturn, it's a good time to buy. If you're in this for the long haul, like I am, I'm always looking for opportunities to get good prices on pieces that I know will be in my collection for a long time. So it doesn't really change anything for me. If anything, it just makes me maybe want to buy more because I feel like I'm getting a slightly better deal on prices. But as far as someone coming in right now, I still feel like the market itself as a whole is very strong. Maybe there's been a slight dip, but I mean, you look at, for example, the Daytona that Rikki has. I mean, the prices secondhand are still way up over retail. So it's been a slight dip, but it hasn't been anything significant to where prices are coming back down to MSRP.
Yeah. Rikki, what do you think on that?
A slight softening is not a bargain. When the prices people pay just now, Steve, you saying there, it's softened a bit, you can buy more, but the prices now aren't as good as they were a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. So you can look on different places. Chrono24 is quite good. If you register an account, you can download their app, and I might be teaching you guys how to suck eggs. You've already done this, but if there's anybody watching or listening that hasn't, it's free, it's useful. You can go in, you can find the watches that you've got, you can click add to collection. You put in when you bought it, where you bought it, your condition, the price you paid, and it will then work out how much your collection is worth. And it's good because it also then shows a 5-year maximum chart where it goes up and down, or 6 months, or 1 month to date, etc. And you can look at the Rolex prices go up, 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 and then just down a little touch at the end. So it's not as if it's come up and come back down like a bell curve. Other place you can do things like that is watchcharts.com, I believe. They've got a really good Instagram account where they will go in and pick out the Submariner, the Daytona, the Oyster Perpetual, the Tiffany dial coloured ones, and they will show you the pricing as it was today, last year, the year before, the retail, the second-hand market, etc. So I don't think it's a bad time to get into it. I don't know if it's a good time to get into it. It's better than it was 6 months ago, but it wasn't as good as it was a year ago. But today is always the best time to do anything because tomorrow is unknown. And I was involved in crypto years and years ago, and it went from here to here to there to there to here. But who knows? Nobody can predict. If everybody could predict, then there'd be a lot more billionaires out there.
Yeah, I know I've lost a Rolex worth of crypto. Rolex values with the crypto. Well, I haven't lost it because I haven't sold it, and I won't be selling it. And to be fair, it wasn't. It was only fantasy money anyway, because when it went up, I didn't sell it, so I didn't capture the high anyway. But yeah, you're totally right there. And as well, with a watch being a tangible thing as well, I suppose you feel a little bit more secure. And you've just got to. If the dip in price just means you've got to hold it a little bit longer if you do want to sell it. But
yeah.
Patrick at Pocket Watch says that his AD's been a lot nicer to him since the recession. I mean, we're not technically in a recession, but I know what you mean. I think it's as good as a...
Do you have a point on that? Does he mean, if he can reply back again, does he mean his Rolex AD? Or does he mean his anything AD? Because Rolex have still got massive lists of people that are wanting to buy watches, so it wouldn't matter if the world collapsed, as it did with COVID or the financial recession back in 2008, 2009. They still did okay with it. They still had massive lists, so I think they're kind of impervious to all kind of things. They're the cockroach of the watch world.
Yeah, and Nick here, he's asking that question as well. What are the chances that interest in some of the unobtainium pieces from Rolex will go the way of the Moon Swatch and is something that people don't chase anymore? I don't think there's a chance of that, is there? Because there's too many non-watch people that are also chasing the Rolexes, aren't they?
It's a monster, but monsters can be killed. Rolex were not the be-all and end-all in the 80s. They came, they dipped. There's some brands out there, not just in the watch sphere, that have come and gone. And I'm just trying to think of some names that you could think of there. What was that? Frank Muller.
Oh yeah,
Frank Muller were big. Panerai were big. Hublot at a point were big, and now they've all kind of come back down again. So it can happen, but Rolex is just so far ahead that they'd have to fall asleep at the wheel for a good number of years for somebody to catch up. Plus, as me and Dave found out when we were over in Switzerland just a week ago, their new big duplicate factory is almost ready.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like though that they're living on borrowed time and they know it. I mean, I realize they're very strong and they're in a great position right now, but I think a lot of their releases have been very lackluster over the past few years, and I think a lot of people get very fed up with the 80 experience that they get and the fact that they don't sell online. And yeah, for now it's working, and kudos to them. They've got a great product that everyone wants, but it's not going to last forever. And so, I just try and buy what I like, right? And there are Rolex pieces that I want to own, but I'm going to bide my time until something changes in the market. And I think it will change. May not be for a year, may not be for 5 years or 10 years, but things will eventually change for Rolex. So, I don't think it's going to last forever.
I don't think it'll last forever, but they've been the kings and queens of marketing since they insinuated that their watch was on the wrist of the Channel swimmer when she managed to get across. They insinuate their watch went up Everest when maybe it did, maybe it didn't. They've been good at marketing for so long. Everywhere you look at the golf, everywhere you look at the tennis, everywhere you look in motor racing, what do you see in the background? They're putting that message in the airports. They're putting that message in the back of the minds of every generation of person, from a 3-year-old kid that sees it behind a Formula One car to the tennis person that's in their teens, right the way through. And it stayed as that whole, this is what you get somebody as a gift. Rolex, sign of quality. They are the Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola haven't been topped.
Yeah, and I feel like Rolex plays this game of chess that's decades long. Because even like the Sopranos was a boost for that. I feel was a boost for the date. Just like a lot of people remember Tony Soprano's. Is that like a gold? It was either a gold president or a gold date.
Yep, day.
Yeah, day. Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Panerai. I think that people at work who are into watches. Big shout out to everyone at my work. I get asked a lot about Panerai, or that's the one that visually attracts people. But I think even Panerai's, where we're saying that Rolex is masters at marketing, I think Panerai's marketing, not necessarily the marketing, but it's even common knowledge about how good the fakes are. I think on Panerai, even in like the normal circles of people that aren't really massively into watches, and I think that worries people buying them. So they always have to go to. I always tell people to go to like a reputable dealer, or not necessarily buy one new, but buy one where like they actually can authenticate it, like eBay or Crown and Caliber, or Chrono 24, where at least you've got that money back guarantee, that escrow money back guarantee on there. But okay, well we'll move on then to our next little subject here. This one. Somebody actually emailed me this one, Sunil, who I did the podcast with a couple of weeks ago. And this is about Hitler's watch. So the story is a couple of interesting things about it. Well, first of all, it was liberated by, I think, the French resistance, or a French soldier actually took it from Hitler's bunker. So it's been in the possession or the family of this French Allied Forces soldier. The watch is made by a company called Huber, which apparently, I think when I was looking into it, I think, Steve, it's a bit like Sears or Sears and Roebuck, where they had movements from other manufacturers sent to them. So they had movements from IWC, and they recased them basically. And this particular one has a Le Coultre movement in it. Now, in the Watch Pro article, Jaeger LeCoultre have actually come out and made a statement about this watch, saying that they have absolutely no record of it. They don't associate with it at all. And they will actually go as far as to litigate anyone that tries to draw inference between this watch and the other, because it does look like a reverso. But it's definitely a recased one that may or may not have a vintage LeCoultre movement in it. But I suppose the question is, like, should this be sold? Like, I feel weird about, unless a museum buys it, I would wonder who would buy this, unless it goes into like a museum or in like a national archive or something. Like who's the audience for this that would pay 2 to 4 million, and what necessarily would be the motivation for buying it?
I speak a lot, so Steve can go first.
Thank you very much for the honor. Yeah, I think first off, this is a piece I would never personally want to own. I think obviously the connection to someone so infamous in 20th century history, and knowing where this watch may or may not have been, not for me. But that said, there are people out there who collect all sorts of things. Military is one of them, and watches are another. And so I can understand why people would want to own something like this, even if, I may not agree with it. I don't really see any particular issue with someone wanting to auction it off. It's not like Hitler itself is, on hard times and he's trying to pawn this off on someone and get the money back. So, I mean, it's, a French family found it, kudos to them. They got it. They get the, they get the money from it. And I think it's a great thing. Not something I would ever want to own, but I understand why people would want to own it. And I don't really see the issue in wanting to auction it off.
My thoughts, now I've let you sort of jump in first. You're the first battalion. I don't know. There's a lot of people that collect a lot of artifacts to do with warfare. Yeah. And the Second World War was a very long time ago, but there are still people that it has personally affected from the generation in which it stood. Whereas somebody collecting the armour of Genghis Khan, who in historical terms, probably mass murdered many more folks. I'm not 100% sure, I'm not up in history. There is a difference there because there's a distance there. This is still very raw. This would be the equivalent of somebody perhaps buying something that belonged to Osama bin Laden
Right.
or another. I know there was some sales of Saddam Hussein's artifacts at some point.
Yeah, there
Can't
was.
remember what happened with that. So this one here, I don't know enough about it. I'm not into history. All I know is what I learned in school and what I've seen in different YouTube things, etc., about the Second World War. As I get older, it's something I want to learn about, but at the moment, I don't know. It makes me feel not cool. I have friends who have visited places in Europe where the atrocities were carried out, the concentration camps, etc., and they've come back changed people from things like that. So unless there was some way, shape or form that the money generated from this went to a good cause, perhaps to benefit people or the families that were affected by this biggest thing ever, that's the only way I could see anything out of that. But even then, it might feel like tainted money. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, very similar, very similar. A couple of people are saying it in the... Yeah, exactly. It's Nick here says, can you imagine who'd bid on this? Because it's not just a throwaway purchase, this, is it? If they reckon it's going to go for 2 to 4 million, the person who's auctioning this off actually wrote a very in-depth watch brochure, breaking down the history. Apparently, Huber is still it was a jewelry store, and apparently there is still a few in Munich, and they sold all types of watches, and they didn't customize this for them. It was actually somebody just bought it in one of the jewelry stores, and then they customized it for. So they didn't have a series of these watches. They used to make watches for I think the German royal family or German royalty. So this isn't even tied to that brand. It was something that was customized. But yeah, it makes me feel weird as well that I think it belongs in some kind of archive or a museum, or like you said, the money being sold that benefits a charity that still supports people that were...
There's another side to this, and that is that back whenever something was produced, it perhaps didn't know its final resting place or who one of its owners would be, or the people that made it were in an area where they were told to make it. Otherwise, people give Hugo Boss a bad rap, Volkswagen, because they supplied cars that were involved with Hitler. I wasn't there at the time. I don't know how things have gone, but if you've got somebody in charge who has got a military firepower and is known for ending the lives of people that get in his way, if they ask you to make something, then you say no, you might not live another day. So there's all these things, and we work with various different watchmakers across the world, and we support them, talk about them in our shows. Konstantin Chaikin, Raketa, 2 Russian brands that we've worked with and had dealings with, who have stood up actually in Russia at this moment in time, and on their Instagram social medias have said very, very bad things about their leader, which could put them in hot water, but they have done so. But they still get shit because of what their leader has done. So I don't know enough about it to comment, but those are certain thoughts that I would have in mind about people that start pointing fingers at watch brands or another, saying, you did this 50 years ago, 100 years ago. They might not have had a choice in it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some very well-known brands, isn't there, where their equipment was misused in the Second World War, like IBM's the big example, isn't it, and things like that. So, well, let's we're racing through these. So I have got sort of a few reserved topics, and then we'll take some questions from the audience as well.
I've got a topic.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want to filter it in before we go to Moon Swatch? No. Okay.
Not right now. No.
Well, I had a bit of a rant about this on the podcast, to be perfectly honest. So if anybody wants to hear me flustered, sometimes I do have a little rant on the podcast, Chris and I, but it normally always ends up on the cutting room floor. Like I know that I've not stepped too far, but I know that I've kind of lost my cool a little bit. But this one I did have a rant, and I did leave it in. And this is just the ridiculousness of the Moon Swatch not being available online. And it basically... For a while, everyone thought, oh, the Moon Swatch is going to be available online, or they're just waiting for this initial hype to be over. But then Nick Hayek went on to Fratello's Watches and basically said that there is no chance, or little to no chance, that this is going to be available online. And his exact quote was, and his reasoning for this, I think, made matters even worse. The exact quote from him was that it's not going to be offered online because there is no emotion in online buying. It's a carefully produced Swiss-made watch and not a commodity. After the whole world has to stay at home for 2 years because of COVID, it was about time to celebrate and bring people back to the streets, meet together, and revive the brick and mortar stores.
Do you want me to jump in here?
Yes, please. Before I'm already being
First of all,
already.
I need you to tell me where you've put the hidden cameras, because this is the exact chat that me and Dave had for our show that goes out tomorrow.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
But I will give you the exclusive ahead of time. And that comment and that quote that you just read out there, that was put in Fratello from Nick Hayek, I read that and instantly had a flashback to when they announced that you could go, and you still can go, to omega.com and buy a proper Moon Watch online without emotion, without feeling, in a clinical environment. So if they're selling the plastic watches in shops only because it's emotion, then I take it the Omega ones that sell online are shit then.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was point one.
Emotion.
Yeah, it was ill thought out because you can hold him to task on his premium luxury level things that you can buy online. So that kills that straight away. Do I have thoughts on what was said? People had difficulty finding where it was officially that Swatch or anybody said they were going to be selling it online. And one of our guys did find where it happened because he was one of the people that asked them right at the beginning, and Swatch replied on Instagram and said, yeah, we're going to sell it online in the future. We have the evidence of it. He's writing an article about it because I think he's the only person that's got that screen capture. Everybody else just assumed or had a feeling about. Now, the other thing to look at is Swatch stores are not notorious for being massive money spinners. Yeah. There's wages, there's rent, there's rates, there's blah, blah, blah. Over COVID, they didn't sell much when they were open, if at all. Now, if you had a hot property, and you were selling it in a shop, and it was bringing thousands of people to queue, yeah, okay, that was maybe a negative as well as it was a positive. But if you've got something that's bringing people to your store, why would you cut your own throat? It's still popular. It's your product. Why would you then sell that online and potentially lower the volume of people that go to the shops? I'll tell you what happened. Me and Dave went to the Swatch drive-thru in Beale when we were over, like a couple of weeks ago there. It looks like a genuine drive-thru. It's got the menu boards of the watches. It's got the little pathway that you can drive around. I don't know if you can physically drive around because we were on foot, but it is. And you go inside and they give you what looks like a little Happy Meal box with the watch in it. This isn't the Moon Watch or the Moon Swatch. This is like the destination watch for Beale. And it was so cool. But loads of people were coming in, loads of people were asking, and the girl behind the counter was completely bored silly. For the last 6 months, I've been asked, have you got a Moon Swatch? No, I don't. Oh, well, I'm here anyway. I'll have that one, I'll have that one, I'll have that one, and that one. If the Moon Swatch wasn't a grab, if people weren't there anyway, oh, well, I'm here anyway, let's get something, let's get a souvenir. Sales would have come down, potentially jobs would have been lost, those things might have closed. Look how many places in the high street have closed since COVID has kind of diminished slightly. So many boarded up windows, so many shops and businesses going out of business. So if I had an amazing killer product, would I hell shove it online when people are still getting driven into my shops? That is commercial suicide. Am I wrong?
Well, I'll a couple of points on that. Arguments that I made kind of for against that was one, if you have to have one in store, make a store exclusive one, or make a different band or something like that to show that you've been in the store to get one. They have got, and you know this firsthand, Rikki, that Swatch have got an amazing, probably one of the best online shopping experiences for watches out of anyone. They've got that they've got that brilliant thing where you can really customize your own swatch, because you guys did one, didn't you? A Scottish watches where you could customize that picture.
The Swatch XU platform where there's like, looks like wallpaper or a patterned birthday wrapping, and you slide it, rotate it, zoom it, pinch it, and then you stamp your watch and it kind of creates it with that. It's a great platform, but if you put yourself in their shoes, what would you do? If you had an amazing product, would you just go, yeah, let's just sell it online? Or would you keep it?
I would sell it online because I would want it. Two points on that. One, I would want to get it to the maximum, because if it's about making money, because you're right, a lot of these storefronts are just for show, aren't they? A lot of the fashion stores are just for show. It's just to have like a presence there. And I likened it to Lego, because Lego has had its ups and downs. Yeah, Lego is more has a wider audience, but they reinvented themselves and reinvented their stores. So they had exclusives in store, but they weren't just exclusive. They were also online, and it never stopped. And people wanted to come in and actually physically touch the product and see the items built. I think it could be a very similar business model. And if their idea is that they want to pull people in stores, I don't know if you caught this, Rikki, but they're doing like these traveling road shows in Fiat 500s,
I saw that.
these pop-up stores, and it seems almost for the people that it would be a different story if they were available in all Swatch stores, but they're not, are they? They're available in select stores. So there's a friction there that doesn't need to necessarily be there. You're forcing people to go to not even their local Swatch store, and there's actually no guarantee you're going to get one anyway. I could drive 4 hours to Miami, which is the closest one that has it, even though there's a mall 30 minutes away that has a Swatch store. That I would have to drive 4 hours to Miami. No guarantee that not only could I get one, but what color am I going to get the color that I want, or am I just going to end up having to buy? And to me, it seems like this was a once in, I think, a generation that for Watch to reclaim the top spot of being the fashion brand that they've lost to G-Shock years ago. Because I remember when I was a kid, the Pop Swatch, they couldn't make those fast enough. Every kid in the playground had a Pop Swatch. You could clip it onto your thing. It had that slap-on bracelet. I mean, the Pop Swatch was the watch to have. And I can't remember a Swatch since until you get to the Moon Swatch, where there's been that on trend. It's hit right on the fashion of the time. They got the right product at the right time, and then yet they're restricting it when they could really be. It could really relaunch Swatch as a fashion watch brand in a big way. I talked a lot there.
So Sam, so hitting on what you just said, if you are Swatch and you're saying, hey, we have the most popular model since, these watches from the 80s or the 90s, why not prolong this, right? Why not make people go into the store to get it until they stop going to the store, and then we'll put it online? That's the way I interpreted that, is like, hey, we're selling all of these things. We're trying to get people in the store. It's creating hype. It's creating excitement. We're going to keep going with this until, the fandom dies down and people start getting bored, and then we'll put them online. I mean, I think it really sucks if you are someone who's immunocompromised, if you're disabled, if you have a hard time, like for me, I'm in Austin, Texas, and I don't have a store. I think closest one to me is maybe 3.5 hours away. So like, there's no chance I could even get one, even if I wanted one. But yeah, I think it sucks for a lot of people, but I think, their Swatch is going to keep rolling with it until, people stop coming to the stores, and then they'll put it online.
But that's like cute that they want people to go to the stores. But at what cost? Like, yes, it keeps the stores open, but all those staff that are daily having to ask, daily having to say, no, we haven't got them. The staff that were intimidated, the people that were pushed out of the queues, the people.
Yeah, that was day one.
No, it's still. When I did my video, it still was happening in May. Somebody did a full write-up on a Barcelona store where every single day there's an organized gang. And I'm not saying that that's one data point and one person that wrote the article. So, but it was just. It seems like they've put their staff in unnecessary. They're putting the staff in unnecessary stress. Make an exclusive store one if you have to, but don't make that the only channel for it. Would be my argument.
I think Steve, I think will agree with me here. I think Sam is wearing his community lover of watches hat, not his business hat. And Swatch is a business. It's not like Rolex, which is a charity. And you're saying there, well, there's all this hype and it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for them. If they did this, people would have it. It would be amazing. It would keep it growing. Well, people wouldn't be talking. We wouldn't be talking just now if they had them online, because it would just have gone, gone. And the thing is, they can't make them quick enough. They can't make them quick enough to have them online because they can't make them quick enough to fulfill the orders that are in the shops. Because just the same as Rolex, I know it's different because it's little plastic watches, but there's a lot of robots. And when we were in Beale, it was to see robots. It was to see how watches are built start to finish. The amount of massive rooms, warehouses full of huge CNC machines that create the smallest little part, the smallest little tooth, the wheel, the pinion, the etc., all that stuff is massive. So they can't just crank it up to 11 and suddenly make 10 times the amount that they were expecting. They need to then build it. And the Swatch know fine well this one's going to end soon. It's not like Rolex where it's dipping slightly. This is going to come to an end and go... There will be something else. Bamford will come out with another watch next week that people want instead. So they're not going to put the infrastructure in place to then hype up the amount of money that's involved, that then hypes up the amount of sales, blah, 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 because this will end. But at the moment, they're doing the best game ever. They're playing Rolex at their own PR marketing machine. They are keeping the news cycle. The Fratello thing, he said all that so we would talk about it and call him out on it. So we would start talking about Moon Swatch because it has dipped a little bit the interest level. It was like, when was it, March? It was about March, April time, just around about Watches and Wonders, and it was high, and it started to dwindle, and then he talks about it, and everyone's talking about it again. So well done, Nick Hayek. Genius.
Yeah, no, I think, I don't know, yeah, maybe I'm just approaching it differently, like my...
Are we going to have one of those Seiko talks again? Is that what it is, Sam? You bring me on, you want to have an argument?
We'll clip this out, the fighting you about Seiko. But I would say, get it in the hand... My view would be, get it in as many people's hands as you can. Like the Lego, the example of Lego.
But then I'll have stained wrists.
Allegedly, supposedly.
Yeah.
But
so what are people in the chat saying? Because I don't have the YouTube thing loaded up.
Yeah, so saying Swatch and Rolex salesmen both say, sorry, we can't sell to you.
Yeah.
For me, Swatch, so Phil saying, for me, Swatch created the hype, but rather than for a product, it was hype itself. The product itself was quartz powered. Let's see. Sith Lord says, it wouldn't be so frustrating if they were actually available in stores. I think that is what's getting missed in the fact that there is no product to sell, no matter if it's in store or online. That is a good point. Like, I probably would have driven to Miami if there was like, well, there's a guarantee you can get one in store. Like if you come to store, you're getting one. And I know they can't make that guarantee. I know, but it would make the 4 hour.
Have you actually handled one? Do you know how bad they are?
I have seen one in person. I didn't mind it. I thought for the price it was.
It's a Fisher Price Sony, my first Swatch, my first Omega. It's a kid's watch.
So
if you've got a real Speedmaster, there's no point getting one. Maybe it's got more water resistance, but apart from that,
yeah.
Well, but the thing is that Swatch, they have to take a different approach than Rolex, right? Because they know people are not going to just hang out in the Omega boutique waiting for these, all these models that are currently available, right? So they have to take a different approach completely. So I kind of get what they're doing here by coming out with this model. And
Sam, make him full screen while I disappear for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ta-da.
So Roar of the Tiger, similar view to me. Yeah, casual watch views. I'm sorry, but if the Moon Swatch was created only to create traffic in their stores, this can only be taken so far, as it's also creating a lot of ill will. So yeah,
I'll comment on that one.
Yeah,
it wasn't created only. No, but nobody can create a viral hit. This is the other bullshit people think. They didn't orchestrate this. This was lightning striking. This was capturing it in a bottle. They never knew that this was going to happen. If they knew there were going to have 1,000 people outside the stores, nobody did. Because me and Dave thought there'd be 100 people in Edinburgh and we were going to go across. And he did. He went there at 5 a.m. Queues were already massive. And we had found out the day before, but we weren't allowed to tell anyone that they were only going to have like 150 watches per store because it only started to cycle up the machines. So this wasn't orchestrated this way. It was just lucky, and being good business folks looking to make money because that's what Swiss people are good at. They thought, well, why should we just let everybody have this? Let's just keep people coming to stores, because if we do that, then the chances are somebody like Rikki or somebody like Dave is going to wander along, come into the Swatch store and buy something else because they're here anyway. So what are they going to buy? Well, I don't know. What do we sell? We sell a genuine limited edition watch that looks like a little Happy Meal, and you get it from the Swatch drive-thru.
Oh, it's got a mini on it. I'm in full endorsement.
Right, so in here, I try not to break the thing because it is actually This is ecological packaging because it's all made of cardboard. So I got myself. You can probably hear it ticking without me having the microphone on. It's that loud. So that was my other little new Swiss watch, destination watch.
I'll make you full screen.
There we go.
Oh, nice. So that's based on that store, is it?
Yeah, which looks like, I don't have any photos to hand, but it genuinely does look like a drive-through. It's right in front of Omega headquarters, the Swatch, and Omega Museum, which is free for everybody to go into. And I spent hours in there. They have got every watch that you want to see. Everything. They've got prototypes going back to like the 1900s, all the NASA stuff. They've got a little cinema that explains how movements and mechanisms work, everything through to coaxial escapement from George Daniels, and this is just plonked right outside this little drive-through thing.
Wow.
So yeah, there we go.
So we've got a couple more comments here. James Duffy says the statement was still disingenuous excuse to cover their supply issues and their changing messaging.
That I agree with. That's why we called Nick out for what he said, but he said it to be contentious and for us to talk about it and for them to get more free advertising, which they did. Congrats.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. I got a compliment. We've got a compliment here. Really enjoy your podcast, Sam. My second favorite. So there's yours.
I know that guy.
Yeah. He was one of the first in the comments section. So welcome.
He is a cool guy. I keep meeting him at lots of Red Bar events and store openings here in Scotland, and he's always got the nicest demeanour of a collector. He's super polite, very knowledgeable, and he's got a brilliant collection. He actually messaged me about my new Rolex, asking what it felt like on the Oyster Flex, and I gave him the truth on that one, which is not fun.
Yeah, I remember you shared me a photo of your.
It's probably.
Branding.
Let me have a look, see how bad it is today. It's not as bad, but still pretty horrific. Yeah, it bites in quite nastily. So, yeah, that's the only negative thing of it.
So I think, I suppose to summarise the Moon Swatch, I guess we'll have to see. I'm interested. I wonder if people are going to swamp these poor Fiat 500s because they've painted every one in the same colour as the watch, and they've got a little suitcase on the back that's got the Moon Swatches in. They said that these pop-up events there are going to be Moon Swatches available. So I wonder if these Fiat 500s will be getting chased out of town for people trying to get a Moon Swatch.
Another way to think about it before we finish up, because we are absolutely killing it. These little Fiat 500s going around to promote Moon Swatches that you can't buy. We don't throw eggs at the signs at Wimbledon that are advertising Rolex.
It's true.
So, something else to think about. Hype is good.
That's true. But do you think, we're doing this to death. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but maybe I'll just say that when you create a watch, and I used to give Hodinkee a bit of a hard time for this when they used to do like the limited edition G-Shocks. There's a difference between, in my mind, doing a limited edition of, say, an Omega Speedy Tuesday or something, where you're of a certain, you have to have a certain amount of money saved in order to buy that watch. But when you create a watch that is like an every person's watch, like what Seiko do all the time and so on, or the Hodinkee watches, where these are watches that you should just be able to buy without really, thinking about it, like a $250 Swatch watch, usually for a collector wouldn't be a big reach. But when you make that unobtainable, like what's that saying about, what's that saying about your view on the watch collecting community is, hey, these are watches, because that's the thing with Swatch, isn't it? That they are made for collecting more than one. Like I've got more than one Swatch. Most people have more than one Swatch. They are collectibles in terms of, hey, you get all the colors, but then to make them unobtainable, it just makes me feel a little bit cold. But anyway,
this guy Steve that I don't know and I've only met today, I don't know much about collecting stuff apart from watches, and I'm quite recent to this as well. Say you were a collector of something like baseball cards, looking in your background there.
Yeah, sure.
Are there specific baseball cards that are harder to come by that collectors would absolutely love, but they hold back?
Absolutely.
That's the thing.
I think, and that's part of the reason why I used to collect baseball cards, and part of the reason why I got out of it was that the sort of moaning from collectors, and there's one brand that kind of controls the market, which is Topps, and the complaints that you hear from people about, I spent this much money on a box of cards and I didn't get this sort of autograph in it. And it's just, it was almost unbearable. So I think what we're seeing right now is not unique to the watch industry by any means. And the other thing is that, like, I really get the sense that since we've been in this sort of COVID situation, that it's like every company for themselves. It's like, screw the consumer. We know inflation's high. If we can make money right now, we're going to make money. We don't care what it costs, what it takes. And maybe they are, sowing ill will, just like Rolex is. But you kind of get the sense like, hey, we've been beaten up hard over the past couple of years. We're going to get our money any way that we can. And maybe it's not a great move, but that's just how it is. It's not the only industry doing it.
Yeah. I mean, in the land of, I live in Orlando, so the theme parks definitely are getting, certainly the Disney ones are getting accused of really, a lot of the, building inflation into a lot of the parks. So it's becoming, so you're right. It is, you're right. I can see that side of it for sure. So yeah.
Nearly get Sam to agree on something there. By the third show, we will.
We'll call it a draw.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Rikki, you said you might have a topic. We've got.
No, I was kidding on.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I had like a bonus one, and I've forgotten what it was. It was about micro brands actually, and I used to get asked a lot to review micro brands, and very graciously I had to decline just because I was doing more sort of live streams. But I'm wondering whether there seems to be some like consolidation in the micro brand market. I don't seem to get as many requests now, or I don't seem to see many different ones, but the ones that there's a lot that are sort of filter. I think this is like a natural thing. There's a lot that are filtering to the top, isn't there? Like, I mean, Christopher Ward isn't a micro brand, but Veya and Baltic and a few of them seem to be really kind of rising to the top, and there seems to be like a condensing in the market. I don't know, Rikki, you must get hit up all the time for micro brands. Are you?
Yeah, I think most of the brands you mentioned there, they've moved slightly. And maybe it's a time thing. When you've been around for a lot longer, you're not quite as micro brandish. It's an entry level position almost, because we work with lots of different brands. Isotope, well, in the UK we've got things like even Studio Underdog, which is one guy. Yes, it is a micro brand, but it's attained a status level that is pretty much unheard of anybody else in the market over the last couple of years. And all because of one watch, the Watermelon. Fears, they've grown. They still are a micro brand, but they have got a polish and a finesse about them that rivals the likes of Rolex. The amount of effort that Nick and the team go to. Christopher Ward, the amount of watches they sell, they can't really be considered a micro brand. And they're selling an extra 69 watches in collaboration with Scottish Watches Limited Edition.
Yeah, you're the micro brand. Yeah, you're the micro brand within Christopher Ward now.
Yeah, but I don't know. There aren't as many maybe newbies coming along, or maybe there's so much signal noise ratio level in there that the smaller minnows that are coming in, like the Kickstarter guys, I now recollecting, yes, I still get tons and tons of emails of Jim Bob who says, I'm starting a new watch company. It's on Kickstarter. Here's what it looks like. And I think, okay. And he says, can you help me out and talk about it? No, because you don't have a real product, and we have limited time. Once it comes to market, once it's available, not even a prototype, once it's on sale and you've got to that position, yeah, let's talk. So I think there still is a lot of little bubbling unders, but the guys that have been doing it for a couple of years, they've pushed so high up in level now that they're not really seen as the small cottage industry folks that they were maybe a couple of years back.
Yeah, I don't know, Steve, what do you...
Well, you guys know a lot more about this topic than I do. So yeah, it's hard for me to answer. But yeah, it definitely does seem like, and I don't know if maybe kind of the downturn with the whole crypto market is causing there to be fewer micro brands. I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like I have a lot to offer on this topic. So you guys tell me, what do you think? What could be causing this?
Are we talking about less releases? Are we talking about less sales? Or are we talking about less companies in existence?
Fewer micro brands in general, or maybe more consolidation in the industry? What do you think would be causing that?
Yeah, I think
who's going out of business? Who have you noticed it's away?
No, I don't. I mean, I guess I get asked. Maybe it's just me. I get
Well,
asked
here's-
less about newer brands. That there was a time when it was almost a daily occurrence. I think perhaps 2019, 2020.
They
It's almost
realised
like
you were going to ignore them, so they stopped speaking to you.
that. Maybe
They got the
this
message.
is like a therapy
Danny pissed
session
them all off.
instead of a live stream.
Yeah. I would say there's another thing to think about, and that is we're now seeing the knock-on effects of COVID that never happened day one, because even micro brands have got a roadmap that can be 2 years. So it took a year and a half to 2 years for suddenly, oh shit, we can't actually get the little locking pins that will stop us selling this watch. The whole watch is done, the strap's done, this tiny little thing here stopping us getting us out the door. That's been a problem. And even speaking to Vishal at Spinnaker, AV8 Dartmouth brand, he'd saying that he hit problems 6 months ago that he knew were going to happen for 2 years, because eventually that part of the assembly line stopped because it had been affected by COVID. And it's the same with cars. Cars nowadays can't get anything for this, that and the other because of wiring harnesses coming from Ukraine. That might have a big issue on it. The other thing we've seen is when COVID happened here in the UK especially, there was a government funding scheme, the furlough thing, where people were getting paid 80 to 100% of their daily wage to sit in the house and do nothing. And they had all that money. They weren't commuting, they weren't going on holiday, they weren't buying new clothes or cars or going to restaurants or cinemas or theme parks, and they just bought. Micro brands advertised a lot on Instagram. They got the sales because there was this extra money sitting there. So yeah, I think it's still as good as it ever was, but perhaps there's not as many brand new ones that are trying it, or they're not escaping the pit that is Kickstarter.
Yeah. Maybe it's less of the Kickstarter ones that I'm seeing. I think you're right. Terry Fenner says the British micro brand scene are smashing it at the moment. Studio Underdog, Alkin, Arkin, to name a few. I've not heard of Alkin or Arkin.
I think one of them went out of business before it even started. Perhaps it was a Dundee brand, maybe 2-3 years ago. But there's tons. If you Google British Watch and Clockmakers Alliance, that's the thing that was set up by Roger Smith and Mike France of Christopher Ward to be a free trade body that would help take the plight of micro brands right the way through to established brands and do something to bring watchmaking back to the UK, because the UK and Great Britain, it's got a very entrenched history with watchmaking. Thomas Mudge, Rolex was a British company. People don't realise that, and then they pissed off to Switzerland. So there's about 80 or 90 different independents from all across the UK, including guys that we've got on our doorstep, like Anne Ordain, who do the Fume dial watches that everybody loves. Go there, have a look through some of the brands. There's Marlowe, there's Fairer Universal, there's Williamwood watches, tons and tons and tons of British brands that are doing amazing things. So maybe the microbrand industry is just as big as it ever was, but we're just used to it, so we don't think about it as much.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's some amazing US brands as well, regional brands as well that are starting back.
Wind Up's on just now. That's a microbrand thing that's really good on your doorstep. Obviously not over here.
Yeah, Chicago. Yeah,
I'm a really big fan of Fairer. I know you already mentioned them, but gosh, there are some really exciting micro brands out there. And I guess one thing I'm kind of curious is like how does a brand go from being a micro brand to being established? Like, where is the cutoff for that? Bremont, for example, is one that I think of. It's like, I think of this as an independent watchmaker. I don't know if they're considered a micro brand. They're sponsoring a Formula One team. Is that a micro brand, or is that not a micro brand?
If you were to consider Bremont as a micro brand, you wouldn't be able to consider Christopher Ward as a micro brand because CW sell more. And Christopher Ward, I can't remember if they said their figures were private or not, but I do know them. And they're decent, but they're not Zenith level, I believe. I'm trying to think where the cut-off point is for a micro brand, and I don't know where it would sit. Does it go back? I'll give you another example. Urwork, are they a micro brand? MBNF, are they a micro brand? Because they only sell X amount of watches. Grubel Forsey sell 250 watches a year. Are they a micro brand? The watches cost $500,000 each. Are they a micro brand? Where do you get? Is it the amount of volume? Is it the amount of sales? Is it the profit margin? Is it the customer base? Is it if they have a retail shop? How do you dictate what the definition stands for?
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. Yeah. So we had Ray said, it's not that the market it's not that the market is saturated. Those that love watches have plenty already. Movement is left as they go up market. Once you can have one can have too many mid-tier pieces. Maybe that's right. Yeah, well, that's been really cool. We've done our full hour here. Rikki, thank you so much for joining us.
You just dragged me on here to fight. It's great. Love it.
Well, we did Seiko, we did Swatch, and we'll have to find another subject to have a little.
So the only thing we agree on is it's good to get a call from a Rolex AD after yours.
Yes.
Right.
I haven't gotten mine yet. I'm still waiting.
We'll put in a good word. We know people.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being so active in the comments, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk Live. Thanks, guys. Bye.